In this video, we're going to explore using variables with Classpad.net. The really unique feature about Classpad.net is that it allows for up to 8 character variables, and they can be uppercase, lowercase. You can even use subscript characters and numbers. And so that's really helpful when you're working with students and you want to actually describe something with students. So let me just give you an example. I'm going to pull up a graph, and let's graph a function, but we're going to call it slope times x. And so this word slope is actually now going to be recognized as a single variable. So watch what happens when I hit enter. It creates a slider using that word slope, and when I use that slider, watch what happens when I animate it. It is moving the line. So we're actually able to use the description, the variable slope, to explain what slope actually is in this particular linear equation. So it's really nice that you can do multi-character variables in Classpad.net. So I want to talk about how could you define them and use them. So a couple different ways. I'm going to go into the calculate. So calculate sort of where you can define things ahead of time and use it in other situations. So let's say I'm working with students and we're working with cost of tickets, adult ticket, child ticket. So maybe I want to say an adult ticket is $15, so I'm going to assign a value to this variable, adult tickets. And so I have to store 15 as the version of the adult ticket. So I'm going to use the button, which is like an arrow button. So you don't see it in our soft template here. If I go into math, it's this button right here. So I'm going to say, okay, I want this value, 15, to be stored for this specific variable that I'm doing. And I want my variable to be descriptive. So I might say adult. And now, anytime I use the word adult, it knows that it's assigning it to 15. So if I just type in that word adult, it should come back with 15. But if I do, let's say there's 3 adults, and I want to multiply, what's that value? 45. So adult becomes that variable that I can use in different situations. So you could do the same thing with children. Let's say children's tickets are only $6, and so I would use that store button, and this time I might say child. And so let's say now I have 2 children and 3 adults. How much is that going to cost me? So it's a really nice way to help students explore, because they're able to actually see what those variables that we often just give one letter to, but now we can use multi-character variables, and then we're going to talk about what happened there. So that's one way, is using the store button. So you can assign it to a single letter, a word, up to 8 characters. Another way to do it is you can actually assign expressions. Let's do an expression here. So 2x plus 1, and we're going to store that, assign that to have my equation 1. So notice that let's move this up a little. So I have assigned equation 1 to have this expression. So now if I do equation 1 plus 3, what value am I get? I'm going to get 2x plus 4. So you can do many, many things with these multiple characters and a way to store a value and use it over and over again. I could even, if I pull up graph, because I've assigned that variable to mean something, this equation 1 is that expression. If I wanted to graph that equation, I could say y is equal to equation 1. And so we've got this nice interconnection here as well. Another way to define is to use the define button. So let's pull up another calculate sticky here and show you what I mean by that. I could also say, let's do something different, ticket. And instead of using the store, I can use this button right here, which is define. And so I could define ticket to be an expression, or I could assign it to be, so now if I do 3 times ticket, it's going to do 3 times that value. And so You can use the define button or you can use the store button, and you will then be able to use your characters, your variables over and over again, and you can use up to 8 characters. That includes capitals, lowercase, numbers as your variables. You're not limited to a 1-letter variable type of thing. So really nice feature, and it has that nice interconnected ability throughout. Once you've defined or stored a value, it'll be able to be used throughout the paper. Another place, once you've done that, if you've forgotten what you've done, you can go into your, into our store here, and you'll see that there's this thing called a variable manager. And if I click it, it's now telling me what each one of my variables is. So my adult is an expression, my child's an expression, and they're all different expressions, so it might be different values. And you could click on it, and it'll tell you what that expression is and what that value is right there. So that's a nice way to just kind of check what you used if you've forgotten along the way. So you go into the variable manager. Again, 3 dots, variable manager.